Black Star Network is.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Hey, folks, today is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I'm here in Arlington, Texas, where I was honored today by the Bold Collective. I'll tell you more about that later in the show. Boy, explosive fireworks on the Capitol Hill as Attorney General Pam Bondi goes at it with Democratic members on House Oversight Panel. Wait until we show you the throwdown, the insults being hurled left and right. Also, Republicans want to screw you over when it comes to the vote. They have this thing called the SAVE Act, but really, at the end of the day, it really is Let's Screw the Voters Act. We'll tell you about that. Also, the Black Caucus and civil rights leaders lay out the harm the Trump administration is doing to Black America, something that we have been calling or laying out for the past year. Also, Reverend Dr. Frederick Haynes III will join us talking about a Pew poll that shows you the vast difference between how Black Christians view Donald Trump compared to white Christians. Today's jobs report came out, and we'll tell you what those numbers look like. Lots to break down. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Voting rights is a significant issue in this country, and we have consistently tried to tell you and warn you how Republicans are trying to do all they can to screw over voters. Now they're trying to advance something called the SAVE Act, which will do a number of things. They claim it's all about free and fair elections and stopping voter fraud. But we all know voter fraud is a joke. It's virtually non-existent in this country. But they want to, again, limit the opportunity for folks to vote. And so as a result, they are pushing forward this particular bill in the U.S. House that will require a number of things. One of those things is proof of U.S. citizenship to participate in the November elections. They also are mandating that American voters either present a passport or a birth certificate in person to an election official to vote. If passed, more than 90% of Americans who currently use online, who currently use voting by mail, online, or vote by the Department of Motor Vehicles would lose these convenient options. Now, 140 million Americans don't even have a passport, and 69 million married women lack a birth certificate reflecting their legal name change. This would cause tremendous amounts of chaos all across the country. Virginia Congressman Jennifer McClellan laid this all out in a speech on the House floor.
Voting rights are sacred, and many members of my family fought tooth and nail to be able to exercise that sacred right. And history may not repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. My great-grandfather at the turn of the 19th century, in the name of making sure that citizens voted and election integrity, had to take a literacy test and find 3 white men to vouch for his character. He got all the questions right. And because his name was on a list of people that the state of Alabama didn't want to register to vote, the registrar said, and I quote, "I need more questions because this nigger got them all right." He got all of them right, and he registered to vote. But my grandfather had to pay poll taxes to be able to vote in Tennessee. All of this was done to make sure that local election officials could deny people they didn't want to vote the ability to vote. And I took my oath of office on the Bible that my father kept his poll tax receipt, which is standing behind me, because he kept it in there because it was sacred right. And I swore to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, all of it. That includes the 24th Amendment that banned poll taxes. And yet the SAVE Act is a modern-day poll tax because every ID that you would have to use to register and to vote, with maybe one exception, costs money. And the one that is free is a military ID. But for our military who are overseas or not able to get home to register in person, it's an added burden. Rural communities, added burden. People of color, added burden. The 21 million American citizens that don't have ready access to these documents, it's a burden. The right to vote is sacred, and I will fight any effort to put more barriers in citizens' way to exercise it, and that's exactly what the SAVE Act does. That's why I'll oppose it. I yield back.
Folks, my panel, Andrew Clark, he is a managing partner of District Legal Group, joining us out of Washington, D.C. Cody D, independent journalist, joining us from Birmingham, and Eugene Craig, CEO, X Factor Media, out of Baltimore. Glad to have all three of you here. Cody, I will start with you. You're there in Birmingham. That's the Black Belt, and that's where folks fought for the right to vote. Now, let's be real clear here. This is what Donald Trump Republicans keep saying. Oh, 90% of Americans agree with voter ID. Okay, we get that. The issue is not necessarily a voter ID. It's what they are requiring the hoops for folks to jump through. To sit here and suggest that to bring your birth certificate to a polling location, that's stupid. I am a registered voter in Texas. I have my address. I've had all those different things. I bring my voter registration card and I bring a driver's license. I present it. Now, all of a sudden, it's, oh, no. You got to bring a passport. Now, you got to bring a passport or birth certificate, and you have to pay. If you don't have your birth certificate, you have to pay for one. If you have to pay for a passport, I just had to renew my passport, and that's also costly as well. That's why it is being called a poll tax.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's typical racism and voter suppression. Republicans are concerned about the outcome of the midterm election, and as they should be. People are not happy with the Trump administration. Groceries are high. The job market is terrible. People cannot afford to buy homes. And these are all things that Trump campaigned on in 2024 and said that he was going to fix. And there are no signs of those things changing anytime soon. But Republicans working on trying to instate a new requirement to vote is so typical of the party. They're trying to filter out Black and brown people from being able to vote. And like I said, it's typical racism and voter suppression that truly we've seen since President Obama was elected. And my concern is that there are a lot of people who are not taking some of this information seriously. I think that there is so much information around the threats of the Trump administration. And when we read things like this that is happening, I think a lot of people just kind of glance over it and don't take it seriously. Me personally, I changed my last name a few months ago because I'm a newly married woman, and the agreement with my husband, because I did not want to change my last name because I read about the SAVE Act 2 years ago. The agreement was, if this SAVE Act goes into law, we're moving out of this country. I'm not going to stay in a country where I cannot continue to vote. So hopefully this will continue to open up people's eyes as we approach the midterm elections in a few months.
The thing here, Andrew, again, that is important for people to understand is that we've seen these Republicans, ICE, going on Indian reservations. We saw in the last election how they moved a voting location away from an Indian reservation, making it more difficult. Guess what? It's a whole bunch of rural voters who are going to have to drive sometimes 6, 8, 9 hours to meet these qualifications. Again, the Republican strategy, we've been saying for the longest, have fewer people vote because when they shrink the voting population, they actually have a better chance at winning.
Yeah, Roland, and it's actually a good sign for us in the midterms to see them taking this type of measure, because they already know they're on the back end of history. They know that they're fighting what will hopefully be a losing battle, and instead of fighting it out in either the media or fighting it out through campaigns, they need to set policies to prevent winning. And wouldn't that be considered stealing elections, to make a policy or framework so just in a situation where certain people can't vote, that seems like to me that they're trying to steal the election. Now they're trying to accuse the Democrats of doing the same for having illegal immigrants voting in elections where that has never been founded. But now it seems like the Republicans are so scared that they're getting ready to lose the midterms that they're resorting to trying to go through Congress because they know that they have the numbers in the House, and we hope that they don't have the numbers in the Senate to pass this in order to try to steal the election.
This is who they are, Eugene. And again, these are the shenanigans they are trying to play. They barely have the votes as a very slim majority in the House, so they could very well could pass this. But hopefully common sense will prevail in the Senate.
Look, the Senate's already said that this is dead on arrival. Even with Congressman Cuellar crossing over to vote for it to try to make it bipartisan, right? To pay Trump back for the pardon. It's dead on arrival in the Senate. And the thing is, this is who they are. This is who they've always been. And this is also what, one of the things they go to when they're failing at everything else. This economy's failing and the American public starting to hold them accountable. Their immigration policy is failing and the American public starting to hold them accountable. They're looking for any kind of pivot away from being pedophile defenders and the American public's holding them accountable. And, they're terrified the American public, as it stands right now, will hold them accountable in November. And so they're doing their best to try to shrink that voting base and population. Because people have to remember, right, voter suppression is not about big chops of chopping out big swaths of the voting populace, right? It's about scalping, cutting out the margins. It's about a couple percentage points here, a couple percentage points there. And you end up looking up and you see 10 seats that you got a couple percentage points shaved off of, and Mike Johnson speaker again.
Yeah, Donald Trump is in the White House, or Republicans control the House because of 7,000 votes in critical districts. All right, folks, let's talk about the jobs report that came out today showing an increase of 130,000 jobs in the month of January, causing the unemployment rate to drop to 4.3%. The overall unemployment rate for African Americans is 7.2%. For Black men, it increased to 7.3%. Joining us right now is Morgan Harper, the Director of Policy and Advocacy at the American Economic Liberties Project out of Columbus, Ohio. And Morgan, glad to have you back on the show. Now, here's the deal. These folks have been playing games with the numbers. So I got to ask you, can we trust these numbers? They keep giving us, we can't have this because of the shutdown and because of this and because of that. And so just what do you make of today's report?
Yeah, I mean, on the quality of the data, I don't know. I mean, as you're pointing out, Roland, there is a lot of uncertainty of what exactly is going on in the federal government right now. But I will say no official report has suggested that there's any doctoring of these numbers. So what exactly are the numbers saying? I mean, first thing to note here, beyond the results for January, are the downgrade in terms of the number of jobs that were created last year. A pretty significant downgrade that only about 15,000 jobs were created every month last year. That is notable. But
wait. You're saying, hold on one second. You're saying that with the revisions, it came out to be a net of 15,000 jobs on average per month. That means that the economy only added 180,000 total jobs last year?
For the year. And that is very low. If it's not obvious, that's very low. Yeah. And so, as we're looking at the track record of the administration so far. Now, we should note, though, the numbers were revised for 2024 as well, when it was a different administration. But for this first year of the Trump administration, the results are not strong at all. And we'll kind of, dig into what January is saying, but I do think it's important that folks have that as one of the primary takeaways from this month's data.
We saw in that.
So in terms of saying, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, for January, the headlines that if anyone has been plugging in or seeing some of the social media posts that Trump himself was putting out, it's kind of like, we're back, right? January numbers exceeding expectations, but that we have to break down a little bit more as well. Generally speaking, the estimates for January tend to be pretty low because It's the beginning of winter. There's weird weather things going on. It's after the holidays. And this is, one expert was saying that the weather patterns just really hitting more because we know that a lot of the countries had severe weather in February, kind of like got out of the window of when a lot of one would have expected those weather patterns to hit in January. So even little things like that can impact just the quality of the data for this month. But that headline number for January it exceeded expectations in saying, like you pointed out at the beginning, over 130,000 jobs created overall last month in January. But the other thing I would note is, and this is true of the last year too, the quality of the jobs. It continues to be almost entirely driven by the healthcare sector, social services sector. That is not bringing manufacturing back to America's heartland. That is the exact opposite of what we are being told is the goal of a lot of this administration's economic policymaking.
The thing that is amazing, again, they're like, oh yeah, we're back. And how they are promoting that and how that's significant. You had Attorney General Pam Bondi today's hearing just touting stock market up, S&P, NASDAQ. Oh my God, we're well on our way. And it's kind of like, no, slow your roll. But it goes to show you the games that they play and how they want to promote what they say is just great and wonderful and deny the reality of how awful this economy has been, and also just the insane, the insane way he does tariffs. I mean, he announced the other day, he added some tariffs to the Swiss because he didn't like the tone of their leaders. Dude, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, they're in marketing mode. They're trying to, because like we said, I mean, one of the primary numbers out of this was that last year was abysmal, right? And so, of course, it makes sense to focus on January, where you have this, exceeding of expectations. But again, January is weird. There's a lot of seasonal adjustments. I don't think anyone you talk to is going to be like, oh, whatever January numbers are saying, those are definitely true. And then it is going to forecast what happens for the rest of the year. But that being said, January is showing some stabilization in the labor market, albeit not like we're booming, lots of growth, and again, not in the sectors that one would expect to justify things like the tariff policy to bring back domestic manufacturing, but there is some stabilization. And so this is where I think it is important, conversations like this, kind of digging into the nuance of what the numbers are saying, the quality of the job that people are getting. Yes, we have more people are getting employed, Black unemployment rate fell, but what are the quality of those jobs? We continue to see in January, tens of thousands of jobs in the federal government lost. And so, okay, people are getting employed again, but in the retail sector, again, social service sector, might not have the same job security, might not have the same benefits. So, even on its face of these numbers, we have to kind of understand some of the limitations of the data as well. That might not be speaking to the full quality of the experience that the average American is having right now based on this economy.
It is, again, Trump is getting killed in the polls when it comes to the handling of the economy, and they're getting slammed left and right, and they're trying all they can to deny the reality. But look, they see what's coming, and they know doggone well that Democrats are winning special elections all across the country as well. And so they are scared to death if this economy continues to be, frankly, in the toilet, that they're looking at a massive bloodbath in November.
I think that is very much a risk. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, in a lot of different policy areas, we're starting to see the administration kind of like put out what seems like a bold proposal, banning institutional investors from owning housing, that they're going to revitalize U.S. healthcare. I mean, let's stick with healthcare for an example. And I think that's the interesting thing, too, about jobs being created in the healthcare sector. If you talk to a lot of people who are currently working in the healthcare sector, or interacting with it from patient all the way up to doctor, nurses, they don't have a lot of good news to report about the quality of that experience, about the quality of care that people are getting. And so I think, one of the takeaways there in terms of like political strategy is we should be, Democrats should be shooting for the fences as well here and thinking about some of the bold policies like, we just saw yesterday, Senator Josh Hawley, Elizabeth Warren, bipartisan bill to break up big medicine, which would structurally, separate these large healthcare conglomerates that are responsible for that poor working experience, increased costs. Nothing should be off the table. This is the time to really think big, and it's going to only further expose just the limitations of a lot of the policy ideas that are coming out of this administration.
All right, Morgan Harper. It's a lot that we are going to be looking at, and we're going to do the best that we can to follow all the craziness going on. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Good to see you. Thanks, Roland.
All right, thank you very much. Folks, today, the Congressional Black Caucus, joined by civil rights leaders, as well as folks from the National Panhellenic Council, held a news conference on the Capitol Hill talking about how devastating Trump's policies are on African Americans. Here is House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Donald Trump once asked Black America the question, what the hell do you have to lose? The answer is everything under his administration. We know that under the Trump administration, civil rights is under attack, voting rights is under attack, reproductive rights under attack, racial justice under attack, social justice under attack, economic justice under attack, Black entrepreneurship under attack. What the hell does Black America have to lose under Donald Trump? The answer clearly is everything. Black America is under attack. The United States of America has been under attack by the failed policies of a failed president. And sycophants in the Republican Party who continue to act like nothing more than a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda. Under the Trump administration, the Black unemployment rate is up, the Black home ownership rate is down, and health care is being ripped away from millions of Americans, disproportionately impacting Black and brown communities and lower income white communities throughout the nation. But we're here as members of the Congressional Black Caucus, civil rights leadership, faith leaders, leaders of the Divine Nine organizations, standing together to make clear that we're not going to step back, we're here to fight back. Right. And to make sure we protect the interests of Black America and all of the United States of America. Yeah. And as John Lewis would often encourage us to do, we will continue to show up. We will continue to stand up. We will continue to speak up. We'll summon that character, that courage, that conviction of those upon whose shoulders in this Black History Month we proudly stand upon. And together we're going to end this national nightmare and continue this country's march toward a more perfect union.
All right. I'll start with you, Andrew. Listen, I understand having this news conference on Capitol Hill. I totally get that. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I've said this all over the country. Matter of fact, today, the Bow Collective, we're having their 5th annual conference. This is a group of Black female entrepreneurs and collectively more than 300 members doing business upwards collectively in excess of $2 billion. And the things that they are working on is exactly what should be happening. But I'm going to keep saying this here. What should be happening is having national Panhellenic leaders in Washington, D.C. for a news conference. That's great. Civil rights leaders, that's great. But what should be happening all across this country, there should be nothing but conversations, nothing but town halls and discussions talking about these things. Every single Panhellenic organization should have a public policy program, a major public policy program at their state conventions, at their regional conventions, at their national conventions. The Boulay, Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the Boulay should be doing the exact same thing at their national conventions. That's what should be happening. When you talk about the chapters of the D9, we talk about the chapters of Prince Hall Mason and Eastern Star and Links. They should be leading discussions in Black communities all across this country, what's happening on Capitol Hill. The reality is most folk didn't even see that news conference. They're not going to hear about that news conference. We live streamed it on the Black Star Network. but the organizations need to be driving these discussions locally.
I agree, Roland. And, I listened to that speech, and I know your base is gonna come for me for this, but I just heard a lot of performance. I didn't hear a lot of substance. It seems like the Democratic Party, including the Black Caucus, does not really have much of a plan going forward. And it's going to be harmful in the midterm elections when there are not set policies that the Democratic Party is supporting in order for us to move forward with certain candidates across the United States that are coming up in this midterm election. So I absolutely agree with you that, yes, it's great that they had all of these, very important figureheads together for a press conference that no one will probably see. But what is the plan of action? What is the roadmap that the Democrats are going to follow in this 2026 midterm election?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, absolutely, that's the case in terms of what you say you're going to do if you get the power. But Eugene, what I'm talking about is, and I'm always saying this, there has to be what I call this education, this enlightenment, this informing stage. And so this is February. And so what I'm saying is these things should be happening all over. Next week, in Bryan College Station, Texas. Alphas are having their state convention. My chapter, Pound Macron, and our graduate chapter, they're the host for the state convention. Okay, you're going to have more than 1,000 brothers there. March 26th, I'm speaking at the Alpha Regional Convention, the Eastern Regional Convention in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's probably going to be 2,000-3,000 there. When you start adding up all these various events, but even outside of our conferences, what I am suggesting is that, and people should be sending us, there should be every single week in Georgia, in North Carolina, in Texas, these discussions that are being held. City council members should be holding them. School board leaders should be holding them. County commissioners should be holding them, because a lot of people really don't understand what's going on. And so you've got to be building the resonance to get people to understand and walk them through, connect the dots to explain how their vote is going to impact public policy. And again, I appreciate today's news conference. That should be the kickoff of a national tour. And again, it's not even have to go city to city. The groups are already in location. We don't have to put together a bus tour. They're already there. They just have to do it.
Look, I agree with you. The thing is this, right? The strengths of our legacy organizations, whether it be civil rights, religious, fraternal, whatever, right, is their organizational strength and the fact that they already have organizational structure in place. So at that point, it's literally just a matter of activating and engaging and executing. I talk about it, every big night that we have, that the reason we are in the predicament we're in now is because conservatives literally took the model that Black folk perfected over the last 50, 60, 70 years and applied it for themselves and are still applying it for themselves. In 2010, it was the Tea Party Patriots and organizations like that. And 2022, 2024, it was the Moms for Liberty. But it literally came down to it's building organization, which we already have, through religious organizations, through fraternal organizations, through civic organizations, through our legacy civil rights organizations, right? But it's the educating, engaging, and then executing. It's the coming in, educating on policy, educating on what's going on. It's then laying out the game plan. It's then executing so you can operate up and down the ballot and get your people elected up and down the ballot. Because while the Senate elections and the gubernatorial elections and the congressional elections get a lot of the attention, there's going to be a lot of these school board elections, a lot of these DA elections, a lot of these mayoral elections. They're going to have a lot of direct effect on people's lives.
Absolutely. And I just, Cody, I'm just not interested. I'm just not interested in just the same old same. I'm talking about getting our folk to understand we have all of this capacity, this infrastructure. but it's not being properly organized and mobilized.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with everything that you were saying about challenging the things that our D9 organizations have historically done. And I mean, not historically have done, but are doing today. And not necessarily carrying out the legacy of their organizations and the things that have been done in the past and not continuing that. As a member of a D9 sorority, I'm a part of my chapter social justice committee because I am passionate about making sure that our community is civically engaged and civically informed as to what's going on, the issues that are going to affect them directly. But I would be lying if I said that I felt like we were doing all of the necessary work that is needed in our communities to make sure that that is happening. And so what I do personally is I go onto my TikTok primarily to talk about these things, to try to keep people informed, because it's going to reach just outside of my local community. Hopefully it's reaching people across the state and also on a national level. And Roland, let me just say, I hope that you'll come to Birmingham for our regional conference. But I agree with what you're saying as well in terms of just the same old, same old. I think that there are a lot of people who are outside of these legacy organizations who are doing the work. And what we should be doing is finding those individuals and empowering them to continue to do that work, whether it be financial support or helping them with additional resources so that they continue to get the message out, whether it's them traveling across the state as we approach these midterm elections, whatever that may be. I think that there is a way in which the people who are really paying attention and have an understanding as to what's going on, we can empower those individuals who are maybe doing the work individually or with other organizations that they are working with on their own.
I'm going to bring in Reverend Dr. Frederick D. Haynes III right now. We're going to talk to him about this Pew study, but this is what I'm talking about. Okay, when I was here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I was in Dallas a few weeks ago, giving the MLK speech for the city of Dallas. Pastor Haynes, I saw on y'all social media there was a teach-in, an MLK teach-in, and they were laying out their action to register folks, to activate voters, to have Freedom Summer. There was a QR code, there was a whole and all these things were happening. And so what Cody just said, to me, here's what should be happening. Should be the alphas, the deltas, the AKs, the kappas, the sigmas, the iotas, the zetas, the omegas, Prince Hall Mason, all these groups. There should be a calendar. And it should be, here are these town halls that are happening across the state. This is where they're having something this week, and then this week, and then this week. This is what's happening in the whole month of February, then the whole month of March, then the whole month of April. Next month, March 7th, everybody's going to be going to Selma to recreate the walk across the Edmonds Pettus Bridge. I'm not interested in recreating a march. I'm interested in recreating the turnout. And I just think that, like, you take churches. I had a pastor, Pastor McKissick, when I had the NAN conference last year, he said, hey, we're having this session, the Black Church in the Age of Trump. I said, man, the hell with that topic. I said, NAN should be focused on mobilizing and organizing Black preachers in Eastern North Carolina to win that Senate seat. And the same should be happening all across rural Georgia. I just think that we just have way too much. We have great organizations, churches and groups, but they simply are not organized and mobilizing properly. And it's just lots of conversation, but it's not clear, concise work.
Roland, you own it. And since you referenced when you were in Dallas preaching, because I need to emphasize you preached for the MLK celebration, one of the things you said that I hope we heard, as a matter of fact, I've been preaching it ever since, you quoted from the book of Nehemiah. And for me, you used the metaphor of Nehemiah building and battling. In one hand, they had tools to build the wall. In the other hand, they had tools to fight the enemy. And for me, what you're saying and the conversation you just had, we basically need to be planning to build our communities, build political power, build, and at the same time, we need to battle against voter suppression. We need to battle against all of the things that are determined to undermine the effort to vote. Right here in Dallas, Roland, as you well know, for decades, we've been able to vote in Dallas County and throughout the state of Texas, really, from early voting up through election day at any voting site in the county. This year, because some people don't want some people to vote, they're only allowing that during early voting, but come election day, you can only vote at your assigned site. And some of the sites that we used to have, we no longer have. And so March 3rd is going to be a hot mess of chaos because of the fact that some people don't want some people to vote. Now, if we do what you're saying, we are outlining every single week, we're going to do this. One of the things we're trying to do, especially with this campaign, is not only get people out to the polls early, but to structure and strategize ourselves so that just in case some folk didn't hear us and go to the polls on March 3rd, we are ready to give them rides where they need to go. We're ready to educate them as to where their site is. But the bottom line is there's a strategy that has been used against us, and we've got to be strategic ourselves. And so Roland, again, preached it. We got to be ready to build and battle.
Yeah, and I just want people to understand you don't have to ask anybody's permission.
No.
Gary Chambers is doing. They're doing these teach-ins in Louisiana. When I spoke in Columbus, Ohio last year, I was laying out to the brother there, and they were trying to do this whole citywide thing, and we were at dinner, and I was like, yeah, he was like, let me explain what we're gonna do. I just felt what they were doing was 30,000 feet. I said, bro, I need you to bring that on the ground. As Joe Madison said, put it where the ghost can get it. I said, we got to simplify this. We got to explain to people. City Hall 101, county government 101, school district 101. And what you just laid out, people have to understand that in Texas, when you have a governor and when they control the Secretary of State, then with the Attorney General, they are then controlling the voting apparatus. And then they are also screwing over blue counties, Harris County, Dallas County, because they are upset that they're actually blue. Well, when we don't vote, then they are still in power. Republicans did that in North Carolina. And so it's getting our folks. In fact, I sent a text the other day to the folks in North Carolina. I said, hey, y'all are 14 seats down in the House. Republicans control it. Okay, what seats are y'all targeting this election? You can't pick up all 14. Oh, you're targeting 5 or 6. What are the 5 and 6? And then what are you focused on in the next election? We had yesterday, there's 2 sisters on talking about protect our health care. And they were like, oh, we need this bill that Lauren Underwood, it passed in the House. I said, hey, you need 60 votes, right? They said, yeah, we got 47 in Democrats, right? I said, y'all need to identify the 13 so we know who to target. See, I'm tired of us just having this macro sort of strategy. What I am saying is it has to be a targeted strategy. We need to pick off that person, that person, that person. We need to take this person out of office, this person out of office, this person out of office, and target our resources and time and energy to doing that, as opposed to this general, hey, get out to vote, we hope you show up.
Right, no question. And as a matter of fact, I had a conversation earlier today with Jennifer Jones Austin, and so we were discussing something in an upcoming conference they want us to do. And basically, they want us to do what you're saying we don't need to do any more of, and that is to have a conversation about what's going on as opposed to a mobilization for what we need to do going forward. And one of the things that we as a people have to get delivered from, and that is these panel discussions where all we do is talk about theories, but we never get around to mobilizing the practice. As you know, right now, we're in the midst of what was going on 70 years ago in Montgomery, Alabama. They didn't have no studies and panels about how to put on a bus boycott, or they were not having studies and panels to discuss how bad the bus system was in Montgomery. No, they decided, I'm sick and tired of this. As a matter of fact, Claudette Colvin said she got radicalized when her boy got railroaded for a crime he did not commit. And Claudette Colvin decided to sit down on the bus because they made up their minds to organize and mobilize. And so Black churches organized and mobilized. Ms. Robinson organized and mobilized. This is our time for theoretically discussing what's going on, how bad things are. That has to be done with. We now have to start thinking strategically and thinking about mobilization, because everything that is being done to us is a result of strategic thinking. It's a result of them playing chess. And we ain't even on the board, let alone trying to play checkers. So in a real sense, it's very important that we begin to do, as you said, and that is target certain seats. And as we target those seats, and I'm not just talking about federal level, I'm talking about at the state level, I'm talking about at the county and the city level, we have to begin to target seats and then groom and grow leadership that is going to be accountable to the community because they've been connected with the community. We should already be thinking about, in Texas, 2027 and the legislative session that they are going to have in Austin, 2028. We got to be thinking about 2030. When the Tea Party lost in 2008, while we were partying, they were planning, and that's how they took over redistricting in 2010. It's all about strategically thinking ahead and planning as a result.
When you talk, so you are seeking congressional seat. The primary is March 3rd, and if there is a preacher listening, here's the first thing: if you are a preacher in Dallas, Grand Prairie, Fort Worth, because they changed the map, and what used to be the 30th congressional district, it now extends across those three areas. Correct?
Yeah, for real. I mean, Cedar Hill, Glen Heights. I mean, Mansfield, it's just crazy. And they took away the economic engines downtown, Love Field, the hospital district, all of that is gone now. And so we have to basically recognize that south of 30 is where District 30 is.
So if you're a preacher, a church leader, this is the first thing you got to do. Where is your church located? Which congressional district? Then what you should be saying is the precinct where you're located. And let me help as many preachers as possible who forget. Surveying the people is biblical.
Thank you.
Let me say it again. Surveying the people is biblical. If you think I'm lying, just go look up Gideon. And so the point here is what the church should be saying is, okay, where are we located? What precinct are we in? And that church can go to the Board of Elections and pull the data and say, oh, these are the number of registered voters in this precinct. This is how many people voted in the last election. So what I'm trying to say to a church, I don't need you going across the city. If multiple churches can be focused on going door to door and you don't need permission in your precinct, imagine what happens if that is replicated across 100 precincts. Then all of a sudden, so they don't have to call your campaign. They don't have to call Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's campaign. The church could do it themselves and say, hey, we want to make sure if the voter registration deadline for the primary is passed, should be telling them early voting is starting. And then towards the election, use that exact same model to say our church will have X number of cars and vans available. So if you need a ride, call this number or text this number. We'll take you to the polls. Again, you don't even have to call the campaign. You can organize it yourself.
You can organize it yourself. And then, Ro, I want to add this to it, and that is because they're trying to be so slick in the state, we have to stay on top of up until the very last minute where the precincts are, where the voting locations are. That's what we're doing here. And then making sure, if we do it right, that we line up, look at our voter, not our voter roll, but our membership roster, and then line it up with their addresses and their voting precincts and their voting locations, and then make sure that they can use the church as that one-stop resource. This is where I need to go if I wait until March 3rd, but this is where I can go within the confines of the county where I live if I go ahead and vote early. And again, every one of my colleagues, I hope we're pushing every voter to vote early.
Absolutely. We were going to talk about something else, but I ain't care about them white evangelicals. We talking about how do we mobilize and organize our people.
Come on.
And that's really what this is about. And again, folks, the Texas primary is March 3rd. North Carolina is also March 3rd. So wherever you are listening, I need you to look at your state, and you need to find out when the primary is in your state. Carol in the control room, tomorrow, I need y'all to pull a list and we need to lay out the primaries that are in March. We need the dates, the primaries that are in April, in May, so we can let folks know that because again, I'm sick and tired of Black people undervoting and not maximizing our capacity. Final comment, Reverend Haynes.
Well, again, Roland, I'm just go back to what you said. It's been my mantra since I heard you speak in Dallas, and that is we got to build power and we got to battle against all that we're up against. And I ain't got to go there with this audience, but we got to build and we got to battle. And that requires being strategic in our thinking and thinking beyond. Again, we got to go after this election, no question about it, because it's upon us right now. But Roland, right after this election, we got to start thinking about 27, 28, 29, 30, and beyond. It's all about the chess game now.
Absolutely. The day after November election, 26, I'm already focused on 27.
Come on, man.
That's just and that's just how it is. Reverend Haynes, I appreciate it, Fred. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Fred. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks a bunch. Hey, folks, that was this pastor in Indianapolis, Indiana. Man, first of all, I've been following them. Their choir is off the chain. It's Calvary Tabernacle. And man, let me tell you something. He was preaching and he was talking about racism and Christianity. And he was really talking to them white conservative evangelicals. I want y'all to hear what Josh Carson had to say.
I want to address something head on in the spirit right now. There is an absolute desire in the world to consistently stir up racial tension. Constant. What I'm about to talk about is not political, it is spiritual. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Here's why you need to know why we're Pentecostal. Because at Pentecost, everybody was invited. It didn't matter where you were from, where you lived, whether you were the boss or whether you were the lowest servant. Everybody gets to come to Pentecost. Everybody gets to experience Pentecost. Now, I don't usually tell you should respond. But what I'm about to say, you should respond. Okay? You should do something. You should do something. I'm just telling you, okay? Whether or not they are your brother or your sister is not based on the tone of their skin. Yes, I'm going to say it. We should denounce racism and anything thereof. And if you got even a thread of racism, you need to bury that at the altar. Leave your gift at the altar. Make repentance and go reconcile that. Don't say, well, there he is. Don't be political, Pastor. I'm not being political unless you want to deal with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Because in the great celebration, don't you tell me you can't worship with them here, but you can go to heaven. I refuse to believe in that nonsense. Well, I don't know, because they're Hispanic or they're African American or they're Burmese or I don't know. What are you talking about? They taught me when I was a child in a small country town, even in Illinois, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. I'm going to tell you what restoration is. Restoration is the plan of God. Whosoever will, let him come. I'll save the Jew, but I'm going to save the Gentile as well.
Now, of course, we played that because a Pew Research study shows that white evangelicals remain among Donald Trump's strongest supporters. A majority say they support all or most of his plan and policies. The study does show that more white evangelicals, they view Trump less positive than they were in the early days of his second administration. Support for his agenda among white evangelicals is down 8 points last year, and confidence in his ethics has slipped by 15 points. Now, the thing about this is, if you look at the numbers, it is actually pretty ugly. I'm gonna start with you, Eugene. It was hilarious when you look at the numbers in terms of the different Protestant denominations, in terms of how they view Donald Trump. Of course, white Protestants, they love them some Donald Trump. But woo, when it comes to black Protestants, that ain't the case. White evangelicals, extremely or very confident Donald Trump acts ethically in office. White evangelicals, 40%. The adult U.S. average is 21%. Unaffiliated is 10%. Black Protestants, 7%. I keep telling folk, if America would listen to black folk, we would be in a hell of a lot better position.
Yeah, listen, America, listen to black folk. You wouldn't have had John Fetterman. You probably won't get Tallarico in Texas. There's a couple of things to try to save folk from, including Donald Trump. But you got to understand this, right? And our audience doesn't understand this, that black folks' relationship to faith is much different than white folks' relationship to faith. And that how we view things and how we view the Bible and the context of the Bible are dramatically different, right? And the thing is this, you got to keep in mind, even when it came to folk that were supposed to be, voters of faith and based on their faith, Donald Trump came in second in Iowa in 2016 on the heels of everything, and came in first in New Hampshire. So, I mean, a lot of this isn't surprising to us, because even, pre-Trump, a lot of these folk, they're the same people that voted for Steve Kaine, the same people that would support Andy Biggs, the same people that will support, the worst of the worst of these politicians, largely because they're white and maybe because they may speak their language, but not necessarily follow the deed of the book, they claim to love.
I really do, Cody. I get a kick out of these white conservatives who love to comment on black folk business. Eric Erickson, big time right wing white evangelical. This is what he tweeted. I keep trying to tell Democrats that guys like Tallarico are considered frauds in the non-white community because he talks faith like he learned it with a Rosetta Stone subscription. It turns off voters who actually are faithful Christians and remain Democrats, and those are, at this point, almost exclusively non-white voters who have voted Democrat for historic reasons. I responded to him, Cody, by saying, this is a lie, Eric. Non-white Christians vote Democrat because of the present day heinous policies of the GOP, as well as the hypocrisy of white evangelicals.
Right. Let me just tell you, whenever I see a white person talking about black people issues, most of the time I ignore it because a lot of times they lie and they don't know what they're talking about. But I do want to give a quick shout out to that pastor in that video clip that you Roland, because as I mentioned the last time I was on this show, I don't think that it's often enough that we see white people denounce white supremacy and talk out against racism. I don't think that that is displayed within our media enough. And I think that if we had more of that, we would maybe have a little less division. But going back to what was said earlier, I think that in terms of the slipping support of white evangelicals, first of all, I'm surprised that there is a slip because we all know that they're in a cult, right? But also, I do wonder sometimes, well, what is it going to take for them to truly realize that they are in this cult? And I think they haven't felt the brunt of some of these issues that have occurred in this country. We talked about the Black unemployment rate earlier. Well, we know that right now, Black people are feeling that the most right now. The Black unemployment rate is higher than the national rate. And so a lot of times when these stories come out about the ways in which Black people are affected by some of the national policies and some of the national changes that are being made in the White House, a lot of white people feel as if they are exempt. They feel as if, oh, well, this is not going to affect me, so I don't have to worry about that. That's only going to affect people of color. And that's really the basis of why they vote the way that they do, right? But as we have seen in the reports around Black unemployment, we are just the start of it, right? Like, we know that if we are starting to feel the brunt of the economy, it's just going to continue to trickle down. And so I'm interested to see, as this economy continues to turn over, because Trump is obviously not doing the things that he said he was going to do when he campaigned in 2024. It doesn't look like any of those things are going to change anytime soon. I do wonder if in another year, what are the approval rates going to look like from Trump from this same group of people when they do start feeling the effects of the economy?
So the thing, Andrew, is these white conservative evangelicals, they actually want us to believe that they are voting along biblical lines. No, they're not, because the agenda they are voting for is an anti-Jesus agenda. That's why they can't stand Pope Leo, because he keeps kicking their behind and challenging them when it comes to their treatment of undocumented people, as well as their treatment of the poor. And so Black people not fooled by it. And see, that's what they don't understand. See, I always explain to folks, when people say, well, Black people are naturally, Black people are conservative. Yeah, Black people, first of all, we are not conservative in the same vein of how they define conservatism. So I think people need to understand that. And the same conservatism, that's first and foremost. They are operating by a slaveholder's religion. They are operating by a Jim Crow 2.0 point of view. And so what Eric Erickson doesn't seem to understand is that we are not going to respond the same way they do, because we see their attacks on voting rights, their attacks on civil rights, their attacks on books. We see their attacks on the poor. We see their attacks on Black economic empowerment. We see all of those things, and Black folks simply are not going to be aligned with that. And every Republican and every conservative, y'all can try as y'all want to talk about the radical Republicans in the wake of the Civil War. Y'all can talk about, oh, it was the Republican Party who did this. You can talk about that it was Southern Democrats who started the KKK. Y'all can talk about all that y'all want to, but here's what we know, Andrew. The party today that stands with the Confederacy, Republicans. The party today that defends Confederate monuments, Republicans. And Peter Hegseth and what they're doing in the Department of Defense, what Donald Trump is doing. And so we know exactly who we're dealing with. And so they can try all they want to say, this is who the Republicans are historically. But Eric Erickson, Black folk ain't down with the people today who simply want to treat us like the Southern Democrats did back in the day.
Yeah, and last week, President Trump released a video depicting President Obama and Michelle Obama as monkeys. Now, there's a lot of gorillas. So there's a lot of different things that President Trump has done over the years, even before he was president, all the way going back to the Central Park Five, calling for Obama's birth certificate. There are a lot of things that he's done that's racist, but after he released that video depicting former presidents, Black presidents, as gorillas, and also as he disinvited the only Black governor in the United States, how can you support that party going forward and still say that you're not a racist? There's just no way. And that's why Black people are not conservatives, because we've seen this. We've seen this for decades, for decades from this Republican Party. And now he just overtly releases a video and confirms something that we've known for years now. So anyone that's standing now with the Republican Party can't say it's because of the policies. You can't say it's because of the policies. It's because you support the fact that they're racist. That should, anybody that was Republican that said, oh, maybe we're on the line, we're towing the line, that video being released and you still supporting the Republicans in the poll in November shows that you're a racist. There's no other way.
Well, bottom line is we know what we ain't down with, and we see exactly what that is. All right, y'all. Let's do this here. Let's do Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble.
A Black Detroit woman who was shot 6 times by a police officer during a traffic stop is fighting back in federal court. Tracy Allen is suing the city and Officer Zachary Melvin for $25 million. According to the lawsuit filed Wednesday, the incident happened October 2025 when officers pulled Allen over on 8 Mile Road for speeding, excessively tinted windows, and an obscured license plate. Allen says she provided her driver's license and registration, but also asked for the officer's supervisor and called 911, which did not arrive on the scene. She says during the altercation, police sprayed her with pepper spray as she attempted to drive away. That is when Officer Melvin fired shots and ordered her to get out of the vehicle. Here's Allen's attorney, Maurice Davis, talking about the case, and Allen talking about the day that she thought she would die at the hands of police.
A routine traffic stop about a plate violation or a tint or speeding, whatever the officer used to justify pulling my client over, he was not justified in shooting her.
He began to try to argue with me. We went back and forth, and I asked for a supervisor several times. He didn't give it to me, so I dialed 911 and told the operator that I feared for my life and asked her to stay on the phone with me. He asked me to get out the car twice. I shook my head no. That's when he began to shoot my truck up. As he shot my truck up, I pulled off. I didn't know I was hit until I got to the light. After I got to the light, I kept going until I made it to the police station and told them that he shot me.
The lawsuit states that Allen will need long-term medical care and rehabilitation as a result of this incident. Detroit Police Chief Todd Bettison says that the department has suspended the officer without pay. Melvin has been on the force for nearly 2 years. A former federal prosecutor who recently quit over ethical concerns tied to a high-profile ICE shooting case is now representing journalist Don Lemon. Joseph Thompson filed paperwork Tuesday to join Lemon's legal team as Lemon faces federal charges tied to his live stream coverage of protesters who interrupted a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota. The Trump administration claims Lemon's reporting violated the religious freedom rights of worshipers during the protests. Thompson resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota. The same office is now prosecuting Lemon after raising concerns about how that administration handled the investigation into the killing of Renee Nicole Good, who was shot by an ICE officer. Well, notification letters will soon be sent to some Black residents in Evanston, Illinois, as the city prepares to issue its next round of reparation checks. The payments total $25,000 per recipient, and they're intended to help cover housing-related expenses, including home ownership costs and repairs. City officials say the letters will go out within the next 2 weeks, and eligible residents are being encouraged to prepare their paperwork now to avoid delays. Evanston made national history as the first city in the United States to offer publicly funded reparations for Black residents who are descendants of enslaved people. That program is expected to distribute about $10 million over a 10-year period as part of the city's long-term effort to address the lasting impacts of systemic racism and housing discrimination. A court ruling is forcing President Donald Trump's administration to restore Consumer Financial Protection Bureau funding. Over the past year, Trump took aggressive steps to weaken CFPB. The federal agency was created to protect everyday Americans from predatory banks, lenders, and financial scams. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley is accusing Trump of trying to dismantle the very agency designed to protect people's hard-earned money. The Trump administration has withdrawn all federally deployed National Guard troops from major U.S. cities, ending a controversial deployment that local leaders repeatedly opposed. The pullout was quietly finalized last month with no public announcement from the White House or the Pentagon At its peak, the deployment included more than 5,000 troops in Los Angeles, around 500 in Chicago, and 200 in Portland, Oregon. Ordered despite objections from state and city officials who argued that the federal presence was unnecessary and politically motivated. More than 2,500 National Guard members remain in Washington, D.C., but they are now operating under a non-federal status. According to a January report from the Congressional Budget Office, the deployments have cost taxpayers more than $496 million, Roland.
All right, Brittany, we appreciate it, folks. Be sure to watch the breakdown of Brittany Noble every day at noon Eastern right here on the Black Star Network. So please check that out. Y'all, it was crazy as all get out on Capitol Hill today as Attorney General Pam Bondi finally showed up to testify before the House Oversight Committee. And man, things got hot and heavy, especially between her and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Watch.
Answer, right or wrong, raping children? Wrong. Right or wrong, killing random citizens? Definitely wrong. Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States? Definitely wrong. Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors, because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ, as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country, because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massie, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away. And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add that y'all actually had a judge that rejected y'all for trying to arrest Don Lemon before, just like the grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Kelly, just like a grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Slotkin, just like the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ, because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact, we know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, this is a good one. Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up. And this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Now, folks, Congressman Joe Nagase challenged Bondi on the issue of her Department of Justice hiring one of the January 6th white domestic terrorists. Watch.
Quote, if you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you, end quote. I want to show you just a brief video. It's about 30 seconds, and I'll ask you a couple questions about it.
You guys are disgusting, man. Hey, you guys are disgusting. I'm former law enforcement. You're disgusting. You are the Nazi. You are the Gestapo. You can't see it because you're chasing your pension, right? Pension. Your retirement, right? That's what runs your life, your retirement. The sad thing is they're not even going to get their pension because it's going to be worthless. And shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Attorney General Bondi, that man works for you now, right?
Who was that, Congressman?
The man in that video, the one who was in the police-worn body cam footage, the one allegedly yelling, kill him, at police officers on January 6th, his name is Jared Wise.
He does work for us.
He works for you at the Department of Justice.
He does.
This is an individual whom a federal grand jury indicted for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on January 6th. One of those charges was forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, kill him, at police officers, right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was pardoned. You're right. You're right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, kill him, at police officers. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. You could imagine the reaction of so many folks across the country hearing the chief law enforcement officer of the United States refuse to even condemn what that individual whom you've now hired did. But in any event, let's talk a little bit about some of the other divisions within the Department of Justice and what's happened over the last year. You're familiar with the public integrity section of the DOJ's criminal division. I think it's referred to as PIN. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know which presidential administration under which the PIN was first created?
I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to
Madam Attorney
reclaim
General.
your time.
Madam Attorney General.
Because I don't like it.
Mr. Chairman, will you explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time?
Because I don't answer a question to your satisfaction.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Attorney General, the time belongs to the gentleman from Colorado.
The president under which PIN was created was Gerald Ford. It was created after Watergate. I'm not asking a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. When you first started as the Attorney General of the United States, there were 35 people working in that office. There are now 2 people working in that office because you have gutted it. How many people work for the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in the criminal division today?
Can I answer the question about Penn?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked
work?
me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
the
people
answer.
work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team? You won't answer how many
I'll
people?
answer Penn.
You.
Penn will not be
you know what?
weaponized.
You know what?
What's
Madam
funny
Attorney
about
General,
this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about
Chairman,
this?
you know what the answer is? And I think I understand
funny
why the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question. Because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
no one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So,
your district.
in any event,
who murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by the witness?
I've been very generous with allowing extra time when we have these little disputes.
I understand.
You got the time, Mr. Magoo's.
I might as well ask the chairman these questions.
I'd be happy
because
to answer some of your questions.
What's profound, the questions I've asked,
the crime in your
I've
district.
asked, Mr. Chairman, are not trick questions. They're not gotcha questions. They're actually basic questions about how the Department of Justice functions and the unwillingness of this Attorney General to answer them in good faith. When a member of Congress asks how many people work at the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team and the Attorney General refuses to answer it, it is not a coincidence. It's because she eliminated the team. Why? Because her boss, the President of the United States, is making money hand over fist, $1.4 billion over the course of the last year through cryptocurrency holdings. I think what is happening at the Department of Justice is a disgrace, Mr. Chairman, and I would urge you to gain control of this hearing. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Yeah. I would ask the gentleman, does he agree with the standing up of the Deputy Attorney General for dealing with fraud? That's something that's happened in this administration. First time. You talked about Penn. That happened with this Justice Department.
We're talking about this committee.
Mr. Chairman, had you answered the question, had the Attorney General answered the question in that way, perhaps this hearing would have some modicum of resembling something that has typically been fairly conventional, an oversight hearing of the Department of Justice.
The gentleman's
That is
time has
not this.
expired.
There were a number of other people who got into it with her. And I'm sure the time I'm not going to play those. I may run them tomorrow. Eugene, this is real simple. Pam Bondi had an audience of one, and that is she wanted to show her toughness. Donald Trump probably said, "Great job, great job." That's what it's all about. But this is what happens. These arrogant Trump people, they come there, whether it's her, Peter Hegseth, Kristi Noem, others. They don't want to answer questions. They absolutely don't give a damn about the legislative branch of the government, and they believe they can do whatever the hell they want.
But the thing is this, right? You know, she came in there aggressive. These hearings are always show theater for both sides, to be honest, for being honest about it. But at the end of the day, Congress has oversight authority over the executive branch, especially of congressionally approved, congressionally confirmed members of the executive branch. And she has a responsibility to both Congress and to the American people to answer these questions honestly and full-throatedly. And the second she decides that she wants to continue to protect pedophiles and protect the Epstein folk, I think members of Congress should start seriously thinking about impeaching her, as well as I'm waiting to see Democrats really turn up the heat on the Commerce Secretary. The fact that homeboy lied about going to Epstein Island and now the truth has come out. I mean, that'll be easily the ad of the year. You take that with, and I know the clip, you didn't have the clip played where, she was asked to apologize to the Epstein victims and she refused to. They're just literally giving Democrats all the ammunition they need to take what's probably going to be, a huge majority to a full-blown tidal wave next November. When is November coming up?
Andrew, bottom line is here. They don't want to answer the questions. They don't want to be challenged on any of these issues. I mean, that's just the case because they want to sit here and go back and forth, and they want to argue, and they want to please Trump because his whole deal is deny, 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 and don't give real answers.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, with Pam Bondi coming to Congress, that was supposed to be an open dialogue. She was supposed to answer questions, and she can't even do that properly. So how are we trusting her to govern the United States? It appears that all she's doing is engaging in political prosecutions. We saw that she tried to get indictments against sitting U.S. legislators, and that was rejected. And I commend the people of Washington, D.C. for seeing right through that. And there is that oversight that we have, right? That grand jury process that meets in secret. And it's so easy for these prosecutors typically to get these indictments, but under this administration, it's been difficult. We've seen a lot of failed grand jury prosecutions, and that is because the people are fed up with the types of cases that this administration is bringing. And it's a dangerous, slippery slope when you think about the fact that if the public is losing trust in law enforcement, what the message that sends to their prosecutors when they're going in court, and judges can't even believe what they're saying. And this is going all the way from the top down. So we're seeing a complete meltdown just in time for the midterm elections.
Cody, these people, they simply are uncouth. They are corrupt, and it is simple as that. It rots from the top all the way down.
I think the word uncouth is probably still playing it down a little bit. I watched a little bit of the live hearing today, and anyone with sense would know that she's obviously covering up for Donald Trump. She spent the entire time deflecting and hurling insults just like she did in those clips that you showed. Why would a serious professional attorney general conduct themselves in this way? Representative J. Paul asked Bondi to apologize to the Epstein survivors while they were there, to their face, for not redacting their personal information, and she refused to do so. That would have been the perfect opportunity to at least have some accountability, so that when people are continuing to accuse all the Republicans or continuing to say that the entire administration is at fault for the things, their participation in what happened in Epstein Island, they could at least say, well, we're empathetic. We apologize. Like, they could at least have a couple of points if they did that, but they're not even able to do that. And instead, she started to blame her predecessor, Merrick Garland. She even found a moment to talk about the S&P 500 and the Dow and how we should be celebrating the stock market, as if that was the reason for the hearing today. So, I do wonder, and I'll ask you, Roland, what are the consequences going to be if the entire administration is corrupt and they are doing everything to continue to lie and cover up their own criminal acts? Then what are the consequences going to be? I'm just wondering if, well, I won't say I'm wondering, but what I'm hoping is that everybody will make sure to show up to the polls in November and vote some of these people out of Congress so that we can get some power back. But legally speaking, I don't think there's going to be any real consequences.
Well, listen, I mean, it's real simple. Democrats do not control the House or the Senate, so they are in the minority. So if they are able to control the House and or the Senate, then they have the power to subpoena, to have even more hearings, to actually do things. And so that's the ability of having the power. But this is administration doesn't give a damn what Congress thinks, and so it's going to be a battle. But Donald Trump already knows that if Democrats get control of the House or the Senate, that any of the crazy legislative things that they want to do, not going to happen. Okay, his agenda completely shuts down for the next 2 years, and that's what it's all about. And so that's one way to stop him. And not only that, if Democrats control the Senate, that means that they can shut down any appointments, whether Supreme Court or anything else, if they actually have the guts to do it. So that's the difference between who wins and who loses in November. Folks, today, Bishop William Barber and Repairs of the Breach kicked off their march in Wilson, North Carolina on the way to Raleigh. Our cameras were there recording and also doing various interviews with folks. And again, this is about, as he said, this is our Selma, mobilizing and organizing people, raising awareness to get them to understand why we must be using our power to vote. Here's some of what we covered today at today's the first day of the march.
All right, Reverend Barber, we've been out here today, the first day of 3 days of marching and then a fourth day of a rally. Can you tell viewers why it's so important in this moment to rally the way you were rallying. And you spoke earlier about this not being resistance, but about laying out a vision for what comes next. Can you talk to me about that for a little bit?
Well, yes, I can. I'm standing here with my wife and the pastor and the host, Reverend Dr. Della Owens, and she said something this morning at the beginning. She says we must protest until something happens, and we must bother the system. You can't bother hate with hate, because it knows hate. You can't bother hate with meanness, because it knows meanness. It feeds on it. But what does bother it is love that is strong, love that is committed, love that is visionary, and love that will not quit. This march is really a mobilization. The first goal is to shift the narrative. We saw people coming out of their houses and crying and standing up to shake people, to wake them up, remind them of who they are. And secondly, it is to remind us of our power. In this state alone, for instance, Trump won by 183,000 votes, but 400,000 black people didn't vote, 1.1 million poor and low-wage people didn't vote. What if they had, and what if they'd voted an agenda? It is to also remind folk right here in this 1st congressional district, they may have gerrymandered you, but you can turn the gerrymandering into dummymandering if you turn out, because they based it on 45%, so a 50% turnout, it's a different day. And it is to lay out a vision. What we're saying is, we're not saying you shouldn't resist. Resistance, you got to resist, right? But if all you do is resist, and you just rehearse constantly a litany of the offenses of the other, people don't know where you are. In fact, if you're not careful, you'll actually be continuing to lift up the adversarial persons, and nobody will know your own strength, what you stand for. So we have to flip that, because the Bible says you got to write the vision and make it plain. People don't run with resistance, they run with vision. So part of this is to say, wait a minute, what is it that we love? I know what we resist, but what is it that we love in public policy? And therefore, what is it that will get up us every morning? Hate and resistance is going to tire you out, you know, but love and purpose will get you up. Love and purpose will make you do stuff you can't even think about doing now. I tell the story about a woman who rescued her child out of a burning house. Love did that, not resistance. Love did that. And then this is a rally, because we're not ending on Saturday. It is a mobilization. On Saturday, we're going to give people 7 things that we want them to do, and 7 things we can do, and 7 things if we do it. We already know from 2014 what we did in this state when we sent extremists home. And we never endorsed the candidate partisan, but we mobilized, as Roland like to say, we did a micro-based mobilizing all the way down to the county level. And that's what we're doing now. We've got the data. We know where everybody is, who's infrequent voters, who has voted, where they are. But the number one reason people have not turned out is they say nobody talks to them. So this movement is going to talk to them.
Now, Reverend, you mentioned we're here in the 1st district that has been historically held by African Americans, including currently Don Davis, and one of the districts that has been redistricted in what has been this off-cycle redistricting, that typically it only happens once every 10 years, but the Trump administration has been aggressive here in North Carolina, in Texas, in Missouri, in Ohio, to try to change the maps, to hold on to what has been a very narrow but unpopular House majority. Why here? And what would you say to people who say, Reverend, we hear you and we know it's your job to preach hope and vision, but they're literally changing the rules of the map? What do you say to those folks?
Well, when haven't they changed the rule? When were the rules ever fully fair? We've always beat the rules. I mean, when haven't we had to push this nation to be what she said on paper? I mean, so that's just, let's get that part, as they say, straight, as the young folks say, that part. But the other side of it, why are they cheating? Because they can't win. Anytime somebody cheats you, it's because they cannot win. They're trying to hustle you. They're trying to make you think they have more power than they have. We know the numbers. We know the numbers. Trump, for instance, won in this district by 11,000 votes. 180-some thousand people in this district alone did not vote. What happens if they turn on? Now, they say we've elected an African-American, but it's a little bit deeper than that. When we restored, through the Voting Rights Act, the power of the 1st Congressional District, it was so that black and whites could elect a candidate of their choice. Because down here, they always had a, quote, Democrat. But that wasn't the point. We had no African-American elected officials, and particularly African Americans that were elected by black, white, and brown people. Eva Clayton represented the first. She was not elected just by black people. It was black and brown and white people together. And then what scares them is the person from this district normally has a very progressive vision. You can count on when it comes to labor rights. You can count on when it comes to voting rights. You can count on when it comes to living wages. You can count on when it comes to health care. That's what they're afraid of. And lastly, the reason why the Congress, Johnson and Trump and them are doing this is because we now know the data. The current configuration of the United States Congress is because of only 7,000 votes out of 90 million people who didn't vote. Now just think about that. Every time I say that in church, folk cuss, and I have to pray for them. They say, what the hell? I say, yeah. If you had just had out of 90 million, not 90,000, 90 million, 90 million, if just 7,000 more people had voted, 7,001 people had voted, the Congress would be different. To say that we are not going to fight for that power is to just give up, which makes people win not by winning, but win by default because you don't fight. There's a great scripture in the Bible that says, in the day of battle, Ephraim had everything it needed to fight, but chose not to. I don't want to be a part of that generation. And the stakes are too high.
Reverend, I got one more question. What would you say to other clergy, to other leaders, and also to many of the Democrats, Republicans, independents, people who oppose some of the things happening to black and brown people, to poor people? What would you say in terms of what their message should be and why this type of mobilization is important? We see fights playing out across the country right now, and a lot of people are discouraged. They're saying we tried this once, Trump got reelected again, these cuts have still happened, we've got these ICE raids. What would you say, like I said, to other local leaders like you in the various localities, but also to the men and women who are putting their names on ballots, hoping to earn support of people? And as you've noted, we've seen a lot of resistance messaging. But what is it that you look for? I'm not asking you to endorse anyone right now, but what is it you look for in this rising generation of leaders who say we're values aligned, we want what Reverend Barber wants, we want what his movement wants? What are you looking for from them?
Well, I want to do one thing, if you mind. I want to let my wife, as a pastor, say a little bit about what pastors and others ought to be doing in this moment, because, you know, if all you're doing is having a praise party or preaching about justice once every Martin Luther King birthday, or even if all you're doing is just only talking about black folk, you're missing a key vision of how liberation happens. It was the abolition movement was multiracial. The civil rights movement was multiracial. Sure, there has to be a serious race critique. Now, don't get me wrong. We start in Repairs of the Breach, we say systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, denial of health care, the war economy, the militarization of our communities, and the false vision of religious nationalism are the five interlocking injustices. So race is critical. But we also recognize that, as Dr. King said, the greatest fear of the greedy oligarchs and the authoritarians he knew at that day and today was for the masses of poor black people and the mass of poor white people to come together and form a voting bloc that fundamentally shifts the economic architecture of the nation. We also have to stop saying poor white people did this, because what it shows is that there was a great 20-some% of black men voted for Trump. Black women in some places went down with a black woman on the ticket. For the first time in history, 51% of people making $50,000 and less voted for Trump. When Biden was in office, 8 Democrats blocked living wages in the United States Senate after it passed the House. So one kind of analysis that only gives one critique is a flawed analysis. But I want her to say something, and I want to come back at the end about pastors and preachers.
What is the role of clergy in this moment, and what, for the folks who are watching around the country, and also both the role of clergy, but also the role of the unchurched, the non-religious in this movement? You guys speak a lot about the type of values that are held even by friends of ours who maybe didn't spend as much time in church pews as all of us here have.
It is simply preaching the message of Jesus from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, verse 18. And not only preaching it, but living it out from the pulpit and the public square. That preachers and clergy must consider, as Jesus said, I've come to preach good news to the poor, to those who are blinded, those who are in captivity. And as clergy, it is the responsibility to be mindful of people in your congregation, people who are in the community that are also impacted by unjust policy. Folks who live on SNAP, folks who are threatened that their Medicaid may be cut or taken, people who do not have a living wage, but yet we ask them to give tithes and offering. So we must ensure that they have a living wage. So it's fighting for them. It is not just in the pulpit. It is in the streets. I often say, no Jesus, no justice. No justice, no Jesus.
You know, when she makes that point, I'm always interested when people say, well, we tried it. I didn't start walking the first time I tried. Selma, the Montgomery bus boycott was 381 days. The Selma movement was months, right? Frederick Douglass tried to escape a number of times before he got out. So did Harriet Tubman. What is this we tried? Like, who are you honoring when you say, well, we tried one time? We haven't even tried voting our full power yet. You know, 37, 40% of the people staying home. We've not, as the scripture says, suffered unto death yet. We come from people who fought to death, unto death. We've not done that. So let's get off of that bandwagon about we've done everything. And we've always had bad elections. We had Woodrow Wilson play Birth of a Nation in 1914, 15, and 16. But later on, we came back and elected Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We've had ebbs and flows. We've never had perfection. But one of the things we have to do, I think, today is stop trying to find an excuse not to do. And one of the pieces I'm saying to folk who are running for office, why are you running for office and everything you talk about is the person you don't like and you don't want to get elected? When are you going to say, elect me and this is what's going to happen in the first 50 days? This is what's going to happen. Because that's what he did. Now, like it or not, the one thing we know about Trump and his minions, they said exactly what they were going to do. They wrote it out, Project 2025. They wrote it down. This is what we're going to do. There was no Stephen Miller, Bannon. They were clear. Trump was clear. And you have to, a broke clock is right twice a day, so you have to kind of look at that. If you only are listing out and rehearsing your grievances, but not laying out for people a vision, vision is what people have to run with. So if they passed a big, deadly, ugly, destructive bill, right, that we know right now is going to kill 51,000 people, excuse me, audience, 51,000 people in this first year, and 16 point some odd million people going to lose their health care. Don't you think we ought to be organizing those 16 million people? If 20-some million people are going to be losing that SNAP, shouldn't we be organizing those 20? That's where your power is. The power is not to keep rehearsing the grievance. The power is to go to the people who are aggrieved and offer them another vision. Say, elect me, your health care's coming back. Elect me and your SNAP is coming back. Elect me, I'll make sure you pay a living wage so you don't have to get on SNAP. Elect me, and I'm not just going to take things back to normal. We're going to expand voting rights. We're going to make voting rights a holiday for voting. Elect me, and we'll reshape the Justice Department so that it no longer is used as a personal attack machine. What is your vision? That's what folk have to. And where is it rooted? What do you love? What is your heart? What is your passion? That's why on Saturday, on Valentine's Day, we will be talking about it's time to love forward together, and we will be laying out a vision because I've talked to several authoritarian experts, and they say these two things. Number one, authoritarianism lives on lies. So one of the greatest things you can do in a time of authoritarianism and neo-fascism is tell the truth. Number two, they live on division. So one of the greatest things you can do is unify people because that scares them. And number three, they live on hate. They live on hate. Authoritarianism and neo-fascism is rooted in hate, hatefulness, just hate and division. But they're afraid of people unified in a transformative love that is seeking to build a beloved community. So let's stop saying, well, folk tried and they didn't win everything. That's the reality of life. But that doesn't keep me from getting up every morning. That doesn't keep me from getting up every morning. I get up and I keep pushing. I get up and I keep working. When we started, it was cloudy. The sun has now come out. We wouldn't have seen that outside unless we had kept walking. If we had saw the clouds, oh, well, they don't need to do anything. Might as well quit, right? Then that's all we would have seen. But when you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, as we just finished singing, somehow things are transformed, but they are never transformed. There is no prophetic transformative implementation without a prophetic imagination. And that's why you have to have mass gatherings, to do mass education, mass shifting of narrative, and give people a vision that is brighter than the darkness of the nightmares of authoritarianism.
All right, folks, our team is on the ground tomorrow, Friday, and of course, we'll have live coverage of the mass action taking place on Saturday in Raleigh. Folks, that is it for us. Let me thank the Bow Collective again. This is a group of brilliant black female entrepreneurs, and so they have a Trailblazer Award, and I am the first man they've ever given the award to, and so I appreciate the leadership for selecting me. So I'm here in Arlington, Texas for their national conference, about to head to their gala. And so just a collection of a remarkable group of women, more than 300 black female entrepreneurs, again, collectively doing more than $2 billion in annual revenue. And so I appreciate that. Tomorrow I'll be in Los Angeles, headed there for the NBA All-Star Weekend festivities. And so looking forward to that as well. All right, folks, don't forget, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to cover the stories like we are right now on the ground in North Carolina. We've got plans to be in other places across the country. If you want to support our work, please join our Bring the Funk fan club or the Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. This is also for credit cards as well. And so use the Stripe QR code. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003-70196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also, of course, be sure to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com, shopblackstarnetwork.com, and get our t-shirts, mugs, hats, all that good stuff. Also, support all the black-owned products that we have right there on shopblackstarnetwork.com. Be sure to check it out there as well. And so, again, those are all black-owned products. When you buy from shopblackstarnetwork.com, you are supporting Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. And, of course, you can also download the app, fan base. Be sure to get that. Now, today, of course, is Wednesday. Tomorrow, new episode of Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Jade Hilton. Be sure to check that out. We'll stream it at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then, of course, we restream it at the end of my show at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, be sure to catch the Breakdown with Brittany Noble at noon Eastern tomorrow for the latest headlines as well. Folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!